Right, so today we're doing something a little different. We're going to be talking about some of the funniest, or in some cases stupidest, parts of World War II. Before we begin, I'd like to point out I'll be mentioning one thing from each major side of the war in Europe, being England, Italy, Germany, and Russia. So, to start things off, we'll begin with England. Picture the scene. The year is 1940. You're a test pilot for the Hawker Aircraft Limited. Look out on the runway and there it is, the prototype for the Hawker Typhoon. It was going to be a mid to high altitude interceptor with 12 7.7mm Browning machine guns, powered by the latest 2,000 horsepower engines, and be the successor to the largely successful Hawker Hurricane. But sadly, this was not to be. On the 9th of May, the prototype was in a test flight when, mid-flight, the fuselage, or the body, literally cracked in half, and the pilot, one Philip Lucas, could reportedly see light through the aircraft. Now, for most people, the smart thing to do would be to bail from your now broken plane. But not my guy Philip. This mad lad managed to land the prototype, and was rightfully awarded the George Medal for bravery. This test flight served as a taste of what was to come from the Typhoon, with its military usage moving to ground attack and the company giving the production of the plane to the Gloucester Aircraft Company. Right, so let's cross the sea from England to Germany between 1938 and 1941, where a group of engineers had gathered to design the famous Tiger tank. With its heavy armour and powerful gun, it was destined to become a force to be reckoned with. But that's a story for another day. Let me explain. During these years, there were two companies working to develop what would become the Tiger. Henschel and Porsche. The companies had been given the same basic schematics. The Henschel design, or however you pronounce the name, won and became the Tiger. But the other design, by Ferdinand Porsche, had already started production. I like to imagine the conversation went a bit like this. Yo man, thanks for approving my design. What? You gave us the commission for the Tiger, remember? No, Henschel got the commission. Well, I already started production, so what now? Damn it, Ferdinand. This led to a frantic redesigning of the Porsche design, leading to what became the Elephant tank. But luckily, for good old Ferdinand, he got to give the Tiger its famous nickname. On the topic of the Axis powers, I think it's time we mention Italy. Now, Italy during World War II is an interesting topic, as at the start of the war when Mussolini took over the Italian army, he didn't have enough guns for his soldiers. In the middle parts of the war, Mussolini tried to help Hitler fend off the potential Russian invasion. This is where we see the peak of his strategic genius. In 1942, Mussolini decided to improve the CSI or the Italian Expeditionary Corps in Russia. That's the English translation anyway. He expanded it into the Armee, which became an infantry unit as opposed to a mobile unit, whatever that means. But despite the stupidity, that isn't the good bit. You see, at the time, Italy had very good specialist mountain infantry known as the Alpini, because, half of their border is literally the Alps. Now, you might be wondering, how are the mountain troops and teams of infantry going to go into the flats of Russia? Well, that's the genius of the plan. Mussolini thought that no one would expect this, because it's a terrible idea. The Alpini were mountain specialists. They knew how to use the mountainous rocky terrain to help them fight. The Armee were expecting to fight in and around Russia, which for everyone who doesn't know is pretty flat and in some places can be compared to a desert. Do you understand how stupid that is? Sending mountain troops to defend a desert. Why? Why? Alright, I have to move on, otherwise I'm going to get a headache from the stupidity. The last thing we'll talk about is the Russian end of the chaos. Now, this story starts in 1939, the Winter War between Finland and Russia. Now, the Russians were being held back, and that is because the Finnish had an extremely good tactics for fighting in the snowy forests. They would wear white suits and crouch down in the snow, but one man took these tactics and turned it into an art form. One Simo Hauja, however you pronounce that name, I have no idea. He was a talented sniper who was nicknamed the White Death by the invading Russians. Simo had kept a diary that had been hidden until recently, and according to his sin list, as he called it, he had a grand total of 500 kills in a 100-day period, without using telescopic sights on his gun. Naturally, the idea of Simo terrified the Russians. Now, you're probably wondering how this is a Russian story, since it sounds more like one of the greatest Finnish things to ever happen in the war. But what really takes the cake on this one is the Russians' tactics to dissuade Simo from attacking. If the Russian army even got a rumor that Simo was nearby, they'd bring a special artillery course and bombarded the entire area. And somehow, despite having a literal artillery barrage on anywhere he was rumored to be, Simo escaped unharmed every time. That's the end of the big five in the European theatre. I actually really enjoyed making this video. It was quite interesting to learn about all these things. I might make it into a mini-series if you guys are interested in hearing more. If you like and want more, maybe about the Pacific theatre or the African theatre, drop a like, subscribe, and comment. Thanks for watching. Oh yeah, and I'd also like to say the script for this wasn't written by me, it was written by a friend. If you like that, I'm going to ask him to do more, because it's a lot easier to just read this than write it.